And in your birth chart, there are multiple things happening. There's, your sun sign. That is what we talk about when we say, what's your sign? People know what sign they're born under.
Today's guest is Madi Murphy. Madi is the co-founder of Cosmic RX, a moon-powered community helping millions of people learn the art of birth chart interpretation and delivering digestible doses of cosmic know-how directly to your phone and email.
Understand that there's a lesson right now. And so in 2024, in 2025, we entered a shift that is unprecedented in human history. He'll tell everyone, he's like, astrology is a science, because so much of it is just a study of patterns and data. So we can say, okay, right now, as of 2024, we entered the astrology of the French Revolution, and I'm watching the headlines, and every headline is like, let them eat cake. Are we in the...
As head witch in charge, she's committed to democratizing everyday magic and making foundational cosmic tools available to everyone.
Like, we, the people, have way more power. We have to remember, like, constantly, it's so easy to think about, what power do I have? What power do I have? You have literally all the power.
And now for part one of my conversation with Madi Murphy. Everyone, today I'm speaking with Madi Murphy. She's an astrologer, author, cosmic consultant, and kind of a huge badass taking on some injustice that we're going to talk about today too. And as a lot of my listeners know, that's part of what's right up my alley too. So welcome, Madi. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Liz. It is such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So first of all, tell us, introduce yourself a bit. I'm sure there's something I left out.
Right. I'm Madi Murphy. I'm co-founder of a brand, Cosmic RX, which we like to consider ourselves sort of a spiritually minded media company. I'm also a leadership and empowerment coach. I'm author of this most recent book, In the Cosmic Zone, that just came out this summer. I'm a mom. I'm a Virgo. I'm a New Yorker. And I'm basically just a very messy, multidimensional person, but who has, I think, tapped into some things that can make life a little bit more fun, a little bit more fulfilling. And it's just like my privilege to get to share that with people.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm a New Yorker too, born and bred as well.
Born and bred. Yes, born here in the city, moved out to Long Island, in my fourth grade as that migration happens. But my dad was actually a taxi driver. My great grandpa worked at like Fulton Fish Market. And so then I moved back to the city in 2006, so almost 20 years ago.
Wow. Wait, did you say your dad was a taxi driver? That is iconic.
Literally
like yellow
iconic.
Cab driver.
Yellow cab driver. And his stories, oh my God. It's so good.
I wish I had a different podcast so he could come on and share.
Oh my God, he would love that. And let's just say he's the one who taught me how to drive in the city. So I've been that person since I was like 16, 17 years old, like not afraid to drive in Manhattan. And my dad taught me the craziest moves. So, but yeah, I like to just give that background because I'm definitely fourth generation working class New Yorker. And it's just a big part of my identity. I'm very proud of it. And you're born and bred in New York too?
Born and bred, but first generation. My parents moved here. No taxi drivers in our family. That might be the most New York person I've ever met in my life. And I grew up here. So yes. First generation New Yorker. But born and bred in Manhattan as well. Now living in Brooklyn.
Okay. We have to hang out in person.
Wait, are you in Brooklyn?
I'm in Soho, but
You're in
my
Soho.
sister was in Brooklyn, so over there all the time. Yeah,
and I'm in Soho in Manhattan all the time. Mom's still in Manhattan, so yes, I'm sure listeners are loving listening to this.
I know. Well, now we're just having like actual chit chat. I'm like, wait, are we gonna offline? Text me, let's hang out. But okay.
Yes, and I might keep this in, I might not. Okay, so tell us first of all, what you also call yourself an intuitive astrologer. What does that mean?
So I think one thing I've always loved astrology, since I was a young girl. And I also grew up in a very interesting household. Like part of my household was very religious, sort of like Christian, you're like fundamentalist Christian, my interest in energy from my mom. My dad was Catholic, but my aunt was very into numerology, tarot, astrology. So she would teach me things from a young age. I was like a sponge, just soaking it up because I always was interested in we're here for a reason bigger than things, right? I always understood magic was real. I had a lot of, I was connected. I'm sure a lot of people listening can maybe relate to this. Like, had a deeper knowing of things growing up, kind of wise beyond my years, or just had that really like spidey sense thing going on. So I loved all of the metaphysical, occult, esoteric practices, studies. I kind of cast them away as I started to try and grow up and become like a real serious person, very like New Yorker energy, like gotta get a real career. I cast all that aside. And then when I came back to astrology in my late 20s, I was like, oh my God, no, I love this so much. It was fun when I was young, but now it's like a lifeline. It's an amazing tool. But what I realized pretty quickly, I'm also a very spiritual person. Like I said, I'm very in tune, very connected with my body, with other people, with nature. I realized that I just assumed that every astrologer was spiritual, but a lot of astrologers aren't. A lot of astrologers are just sort of like almost very analytical, or almost like reading like a weather report, right? And I realized that partly why I love astrology is that some people are using it in a very traditional way, very almost academic way. I like to use it to figure out who you are, why you're here, why did your soul incarnate in your body? And then I like to use astrology as this sort of language, this kind of like poetry, mixture of like poetry and playbook from the universe that helps give language to what I'm feeling into someone's energy field. Like, why are you stuck? What's a block? What's holding you back from living in your most beautiful realized potential? And so I quickly realized I would have an intuitive hit about someone. I'd see something in their chart, and it gave me the confidence to really like speak on that. Like, oh, I'm seeing this. Is this something that resonates with you? And then someone would be like, oh my God, yeah. And I discovered this really virtuous cycle between my intuition being validated by the astrology, and then the astrology helping me give a little bit more of like a practical application of what I was picking up on intuitively. But I just like to name myself as that because some of the stuff I'm picking up in someone's chart isn't necessarily what like a textbook astrologer would see. It's like their chart speaks to me just like people's energy fields or palms or tarot cards speak to certain people. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, you are an intuitive, maybe psychic as well, a bit psychic, and you blend that. Astrology is a tool that you use instead of, if I was to probably do astrology, it would just be purely mathematical for me, because I'm
right.
not. So it would be like, what does the formula tell me without
exactly. And that's
like
what's
bringing
so cool.
another layer. Okay.
Exactly. It's like how there's all different types of doctors or all different type of writers or teachers, and some are more intuitively led and some are more analytical. I'm more intuitively led, but astrology really helped me because as a lifelong New Yorker, as an earth sign, anyone listening who's like a Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, we like tangible things, right? Like as a born and raised New Yorker, it's hard for me to go up to someone and just be like, I have this feeling about you. I am tuned into this. But if I see it in your birth chart and I can point to it with a little bit more of black and white, information and show you the data behind it. Oh, this is what happened, right? For the past 7 years, was this a pattern going on? They're like, oh, it gives me more confidence versus just walking up to someone and being like, I have a message for you, right? Like it just gives me a little bit more, like data, evidence, receipts, as the kids would say.
Right. And so you said you're also intuitive. Do you remember either the first time you got intuitive information that was verified, and actually I'll make this an and the most verified intuitive situation you've had?
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. The first time, I mean, all of my whole childhood was like in my old apartment. So had to be under 5 years old. I remember telling my parents about like these dreams that I was part of like Joan of Arc. They're like, how did you learn who Joan of Arc is? I was like, I was with Joan of Arc. I would tell them stories about how I was in a harem. And my parents are like, what in the world? Like, are you sneaking off and watching some kind of weird Showtime? Like, how is our daughter knowing what Joan of Arc harem is? And this is when I think I was just tuning into some kind of past life experience. Like, I would have these dreams and these names would come, these visions would come through. And that was all like interesting, kind of. But I think one of the moments when I was a little bit more coming of age that I just felt like that intuitive knowing is just going over to my friend's house and watching Jeopardy. And this is really weird, but we would watch Jeopardy and they would have these questions on. I'm like 7, 8, 9, like in that kind of age period with my friends. And other one mom would watch Jeopardy and I'd go over there often and I would just know all the answers. Like it would just be like stuff that I had no business knowing. It was just this like like something in my mind would just come out and I'd get a gut hit. And because it was so fast paced, it was a silly game. I felt comfortable like shouting it out. And my friend's mom was like, you should be on Jeopardy. I remember trying to take the test and I was too nervous. I couldn't do it. But I think it's just in that moment of like that, I remember feeling like, I don't know how I know this information. It's just coming through. And it felt a little bit more tangible than just being like, my weird past life dreams or like a feeling. I would get feelings about people a lot. Like, is that person sad? That person's not feeling well. And that was a little bit more, not as easy to point to, but the Jeopardy. And then one time I was in a coffee shop and someone said, I was like young, there's a reggae album on. I was a little bit older at this point. And they're like, who's singing? We'll give someone $5 and a free brownie if they know who's singing the song. And I just yelled out Sinead O'Connor. And it was Sinead O'Connor, but didn't sound like her. And everyone was like, how'd you know that? I'm like, I have no idea. So these were certain moments in almost this like trivia style, like blurting that I was like, there's something here. And then it wasn't until I got older that I learned how to trust it. I learned you have to do a lot of work. It's like being an open channel. So you have so much information coming through. It definitely, my brain is very neurodivergent, like kind of ADHD. And then you're getting information from other realms. So it's very hard to focus, it's hard to concentrate. So a lot of my developmental work to understand more of my intuition was really about just grounding down, clearing the outside noise, and learning how to like really like protect my energy, like a channel, like instead of tuning into 4,000 radio stations at once, just finding like one frequency at a time. And when I started to do that, some very interesting things happened, and I would have just crazy hits about like little things, like they're little, but they're big, like turn back in your house, you forgot something. And I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And I'd be like, no, turn back. And I'll go home and there'd be like a candle lit in my kitchen. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Turn that off, like blow that out. I think one of the fun things was just turning to one of my friends in my late 20s and being like, you're pregnant. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, no, I think you're pregnant. And she's like, you're effing with me. Like, that's not even on my realm of like possibility. Like, I haven't been thinking about that. And I was like, I don't know. I just keep getting, and I was seeing these images around her, some tarot images that I had been studying. I was like, I don't know. You're really like, okay, if you're not, then just be careful because you might get pregnant. And of
she
course,
didn't want to get pregnant. She wasn't trying.
She wasn't planning, right? Like she was also,
okay.
I'm 41. At the time, she was like 38. And she was like, I'm not getting, like what? Like I'm not a teenager getting accidentally pregnant. Like she's a high-powered career person, all that. And then turns out she was pregnant. And like 2 weeks later, she told me, she's like, I took a test. She's like, you are a witch. And I was like, I know. But like it was, and now I would know. It was really cool. I would know now, maybe not to put that on someone if they weren't asking, but I just got such a strong hit off of her. So those were, that was one of the biggest moments. And since then I've had like, that's basically just my life every day now. But I remember that was the first time that it was such a compelling, strong, like it was almost like I couldn't deny it. I was like, something about you feels so, so, so pregnant. And since I've kind of learned how to tap in, for anyone listening who might have an intuitive like sense that they might have that kind of connection, in the beginning, it can feel like you're just spilling water everywhere. Like I have all this information, but it's just in little like puddles and streams around me. Learning about like grounding, anchoring, clearing your energy, it can become like, oh, instead of like leaking water out, it's like a fire hose of energy, like water, like, oh, I can really tune into something. And that's when it's gotten a little bit more fun.
And so with Jeopardy, with knowing your friend's pregnant, all that, how would it be a knowing? Would you hear a voice? What would it experientially be like for you?
So I think when I would hear about psychics and intuitive people, first of all, you picture like people with a crystal ball, like the Miss Cleo ads or whatever. And I'm like, that's definitely like not me.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
what I
that,
thought at first. And I was
like,
like,
you're
this
just
stuff's
like,
all going to be nonsense. I didn't believe any of it until
right. I'm like,
now.
wow. Right. Or just like a psychic is someone's going to like kind of rip you off. Like, oh, or like say vague things to you. You have a person in your past who you can't stop thinking about. I'm like, well, yeah, who like doesn't like, but when I
Yes.
realized, and, you know, because I am a more of I do like to understand facts and the logical side of things, in addition to like the whimsical, esoteric, etheric side of things. I realized that for me, I thought my intuition was going to be, or I thought someone who was psychic was like having like words about like, Liz, say this to Liz right now. Like, or like a ghost behind you, like tapping on your shoulder and being like, tell her this. And for me, it's just this like rush of a deep knowing, of a feeling I'm getting in my body. Like I get a lot of like sensations. And it can be that maybe when I'm looking at you, I'm thinking about a song, or I'm seeing like when I was pregnant, when my friend was pregnant, I kept seeing this like Empress card, which is a tarot card that is about like fertility. And I just kind of kept seeing it, like associating her with it in my mind's eye. And so for me, there's many different types of clair abilities. Clair abilities are the ability to kind of like transcend the 3D realm and to tune into like other things. There's clairaudience, people hear things. There's clairvoyance, people see things. I don't have that. I just have, it's called the claircognizance. It's just like a knowing. And I think that is one of the harder psychic abilities, quote unquote, to understand when you begin to have it, because you're like, what does this even mean? I just have this rush of a feeling take over me. And I think that it is woo woo, it is spiritual, it is mysterious in so much of it. But I also think that women, especially since the beginning of time, we have had to understand the most nuanced, small little flex in someone's tone, a facial expression someone makes, something happening in nature. We have to process things that happen within nanoseconds for our survival. And this is like since the beginning of time, right? Like, is this
Right.
person safe around my babies? Is this animal like cool or like gonna come attack me? And I think that over centuries, especially a woman's brain is just fine tuned to be collecting so much information beyond what our like cognizant mind really understands. So I really do think that every woman has some kind of huge intuitive gift. It's just about figuring out like what is the style of language of how it speaks to you.
So, yeah, I mean, I have such a hard time listening to my intuition. I'm getting better. But you said you started to learn to trust this voice. How did you learn to do that?
I think it's like a mystical muscle. It's a three. I'll give you three parts of it. One, I will say it's so hard to trust your intuition. It's so hard because we live in a very like quote unquote masculine society up to this point. You know, things are shifting, but like we really do. We value spreadsheets and data and things we can touch, output, and like what's the strategy and how can you point to this and do studies, and that's cool. Those things aren't bad. I love science, I love research, I love data, I love spreadsheets. But there's also like this intuitive knowing that I do believe all women have, but there is no like test. It's no driver's test. I mean, like, congratulations, like you're intuitive, right? And it's never going to always speak to you in one direct way. And what it's going to require for people to get in touch with it is usually some kind of stillness or quietude, and then trust. And these are two things that we are not exactly rewarded. We're not rewarded for being still. We're rewarded for being very busy, very distracted, lots of input, right? and trust. We don't live in a society that profits off of women trusting themselves. We live in a society that profits off of, don't trust you, trust this expert, buy this thing. When you have this, then you will be happy. Look at what everyone else is doing, right? So female intuition, I believe, is very dangerous to the powers that be, right? Because a woman who's in her intuitive knowing cannot be governed, cannot be tamed. And why would anyone who's been running society up to this point benefit from that? So of course we have to look at like the macro, right? Before we understand the micro. So that's all happening. So of course we're not going to trust our intuition. So then to be able to begin to tap in is going to require us to be in stillness, to be in silence sometimes. And listen, I hate meditating. I am ADHD. I am fidgety to the core. I am the most fidgety. I am so fidgety. I have never sat still once in my life. Like even when I'm sleeping, I am thrashing about. So I am not that person.
That might be a New Yorker thing too.
Like swear to God,
we don't like things to move slowly. We can't be still. Like, no. I mean, I'm fidget through the podcast.
I fidget. I'm going to crack my knuckles like 15,000 times on this podcast. Like I cannot sit still, right? So it's partly, I do think and that's why I love working with my people who are mostly like New Yorkers or East Coasters. Cause I'm like, I get it. Like I'm not going to be in some gauzy white dress and a big wide brimmed hat and tell you to sit on a pastel meditation pillow. And that's how you're going to ascend. Like I think meditation is great. It's just not for me in that style. So I had to learn how to cultivate stillness. The other things for me, walking is actually a great meditation for me. Doing the dishes, like something where I'm moving, but I'm not in my active, engaged mind and where there's no input.
If you want to learn how I went from being a skeptical atheist who thought there was zero chance of an afterlife to a skeptical atheist who thinks an afterlife is highly probable, come check out my books. WTF Just Happened.
And that's a big thing because that's very hard, right? Like we're so used to, we have the phone.
Can you listen to music during that time? Yes. Because walking for me, I find very meditative, moving as well. Yes. And if I'm feeling more meditative, I don't like it quiet. I put on music.
No, so I think music, that's okay. I think, and actually just a bonus aside, I think music, talk about ways that your intuition can speak to you. I love playing Spirit DJ and just putting on a big playlist of mine and putting it on shuffle or random and just, walking, thinking about questions and kind of seeing what songs come up. Like, it's just like, okay, like something comes up and it's just like, why did Frozen's Let It Go just come up? Because like, you're supposed to let that thing go right now. Like you're obsessing about it too much. And it's always interesting what comes through in music. So walking, some kind of stillness, some kind of silence. And I don't mean sitting on a cushion, but I just mean not being screen time, basically. It's the new modern meditation for me. It's like not staring at a screen and preferably, moving your body and preferably outside can do vast things. And the other thing I said was trust. Right? So just like you work out and you build muscles so you can use them in real time. That's why I love like functional workout, functional flexibility training. It's like, oh, you do this workout so that way when you have to, bend over and pick something up or you have to like lunge across a big puddle in the snow in the winter, you're like, oh, wow, I've trained that muscle and now here I am using it. That's so cool. So there's things that can help you train your mystical muscle in private. So when that go time happens in real life, you're like, I know what this feels like. I also know that in the past, in a low stakes environment, I trusted my intuition. So now I can in high stakes environments or just at a much higher, quicker, like synaptic function rate of doing it. So things like pulling oracle cards or tarot cards are one of my favorite ways of doing this. Just starting off the day. What should I know about today? What should I know about this? Pulling one card and just kind of seeing what it feels like, what it means, and then just living your day and kind of seeing how that energy, or maybe you have a question about a scenario you're in and you pull a card and like just the images on the cards, the words will like kind of help give your intuition language. The cards aren't magic. They are not a magical psychic thing. They're just giving you a mirror. They're giving you a language or something. And maybe, you start trusting that in person, like, I'm sorry, in your little like day-to-day practice. And then when something happens and you're being asked to, like I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who want to learn how to trust their intuition more, because it's literally the best. Talk about AI, talk about ChatGPT, talk about the best like strategist in your back pocket. Your intuition is that times a million. So, and your intuition helps you guide yourself to your highest path. So I will have my very, esteemed Fortune 500 people, or leaving old big tech companies or people in entertainment. I'm like, yeah, pull a tarot card, an oracle card every day. And they're like, what? And I'm like, trust me, these are things that help build that muscle. And then you have to start practicing saying things out loud, maybe. Like that's the other mystical muscle. So like you, Liz, I would say, like when you start getting those little intuitive hits, is there an environment where you can feel safe to record that, whether it's in a journal, whether it's with a friend, whether it's just practicing being like, I just something out loud. I feel my intuition is saying this. Like, can I just practice that? Because then what happens is, as you do that, you build trust that you're saying to your intuition, I'm listening, I'm open to you. And then you're going to see probably some sort of result. Oh, I spoke up about that thing and that was off. Or I checked in, I called that friend I was thinking of for no reason. And turns out they're having a really hard day. Boom. And that just starts building that muscle, right? Like it's all evidence for ourselves. Like, oh, that did work that time, so I can do it again. And like I was telling those stories of me, watching Jeopardy, and then I went through my training and I started doing all the things I'm talking about. And now, like my husband, who is a finance bro, former football player, could not be less of a spiritual woo-woo guy. He will, if I say like, do not take a meeting on that day, or we have literally bought a house sight unseen on my intuition. So like we walked.
And was it the right choice?
It was the right choice. And it was it was like a perfect, like everyone's like, how did you get that house? So that's a miraculous moment. I'm like, and this is what happens like when you learn how to trust your intuition, because you just know when to act from that intuitive place and you can trust yourself. And when that happens, life starts to feel like you have a hack for it, kind of. And there's so many reasons to trust your intuition, but that's one of my big examples. But yeah, so does that make sense to you about like building the mystical muscle, a little bit of like the trust, the quiet?
It does. It does. And I'm thrilled. Like sometimes I do like still meditation when I'm going to bed, but only where I really start to feel a lot of waves. I guess that feels less still and it starts feeling like high energy and not so silent and really powerful. But I'd say the main things I do normally if I sit and try to meditate, I'm like, oh, I have to send that email. So I'm thrilled to know about the walking. I'm thrilled to know that you can do it that way to help develop these muscles. And that makes complete sense. I want to ask you, it's, I think, a big misconception about astrology, and it might sound to someone who's an astrologer really not that smart. But I know when I first, when I was a kid, I remember hearing about it, and I knew some people who had the same date of birth as me, and I was not like them. I did not get along with them. So I was like, oh, that's evidence astrology is not real. And I feel like a lot of people that just know nothing about that think that. Well, that's such an oversimplification, I assume, but that is something that I've also heard skeptics say as well. And that's what I used to think. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So, what's really cool is that everyone's birth chart, which we can get into, is like a unique fingerprint. They have like a cosmic fingerprint. So there is the day that you were born, but the time you were born and the location that you're born all have an influence on your birth chart. And in your birth chart, there are multiple things happening. There's, your sun sign. And that is what we talk about when we say, what's your sign? People know what sign they're born under. But there's your moon, there's your rising, your Venus, your Mercury. And all of these things, you almost think about them like roles, like that you're casting in a play. They each contribute something to your personality, to your psyche, to your drive. They each present you with obstacles, with opportunities. And even someone born on the same day, even on the same year, can have different things happening in their birth chart. There's one part of your chart that changes every 2 hours. I know twins who have different birth charts because they were born at the switchover of some of these marks. And they're very similar, but then there's a little imperceptible, like a more lightly perceptible shift in their, what we call their rising sign. And there's that element of it that there's so much happening. And then on any given year, those could be very different. Like, I'm born on September 9th, 1984, but September 9th of this, 2025 was a very different astrological makeup of that play in the sky that was happening. So there's that. And of course, I will always point out, you could have twins with the same birth chart, raised in the same house, and there is something just about people's their personal life force they came here with that might express differently, especially within a chart. We can talk about this, but one thing I read about in my book is each of these zodiac signs, there's sort of an archetypal energy, and there's a key that correlates with them that can unlock every aspect of you. But it's up to us to know that each of these zodiac signs it's like an octave. It's like a musical scale. There's the high note of the zodiac and there's the low note of the zodiac. And so you could have people with the exact same chart, exact same placement, and someone might just choose to live in a lower note, like a lower consciousness, less evolved note of the same sign. And our life's journey, I believe, is to learn how to live in the more conscious, awakened, evolved part of the sign, but knowing that on any given day, on a bad day, you can toggle back and forth. It's not like you have to stay there one to it and never go back, but just about having the awareness to live there. And that's like what I wrote about in my book. But does that resonate? Does that make sense or offer a little bit more insight?
It does, definitely. And well, I'm curious, the twins who are two different signs, did they match their sign in terms of personality and tastes?
Okay, yes. So they have obviously the same sun sign because they were born in the same day. But what happened, two things happened that were interesting. The moon sign, which is your inner world, changes every 2.5 days. And a rising sign, which is your outward aura, how people perceive you, what kind of guides you in life. And it can actually have very much a correlation to your physical looks, which is funny. Their moon sign and their rising sign were different because the one twin came out and then the other twin was like, I guess a little bit like slower behind or something. And I think they were born like 20 minutes later. But at that time, the rising and the moon sign switched. So they were very similar and they were fraternal, not identical. So when they came out, and this is very interesting, it's like one was a Cancer rising and one's a Leo rising. So a Cancer rising is I'm a Cancer rising. We have big round faces. We have like very moon energy. We're ruled by the moon. Cancer risings are usually very familiar feeling, like maternal. And then Leo risings have more of like that leonine kind of big hair, usually something like a bolder brow and cheekbones. And, now they're adults, obviously, why they got their reading with me. And their faces are a little bit different like that. Like they're twins, but they're fraternal. And I'm like, oh, one of them feels much more Cancer rising, one more Leo rising to me. And then their moon signs were different. So it was very, it's the outside world, they're twins, right? But when I got to do their chart, and I'm like, oh, it makes sense because one of them went the route of the family business and kind of stayed close to home and a little bit more softer, more like a quieter. And the other one, the Leo rising, went out to work for a magazine and then go on to work in a really glossy PR firm here in the city. And so you kind of see, you're like, oh yeah, how do two people growing up in the same house with very similar charts go into like different expressions of them? And it was just one of those moments that, again, astrology just kind of like blew my mind with how literal it was for them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think it'd be so interesting to have twins that are born different days, different years. Like you hear of that on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
sometimes.
yes, yes,
And I
yes.
believe at the turn of the millennium, there was one, it was like, one was born in 1999, the other 2000, just January 1st. I'm like, that's just would be a cool kind of fun fact for the twins. But I'm like, it's crazy. You could say you were born in different millennium and you're twins.
Oh my God,
That'd be
right? That's
so
cool.
fun to do astrology of,
That is
especially if
so
they
cool
were.
with astrology. That's something you want to almost make like a children's story about. That feels like the beginning of like a mythical journey, right?
Right, like two identical twins or fraternal, whatever, two twins
I
are born in different millennia. So that'd be
love
fascinating. So if
that.
any listeners know anyone like that, let's send them to Maddie for an experiment
I
and
love a good
share the results
experiment.
on here if that happens. I mean, the odds of probability of one of our listeners knowing this is not that high, but you never know. I mean, there's probably like one set of that in the world, maybe more. So,
I
yeah.
love that.
So I would love to know a little more about Cosmic RX. What exactly is that?
So Cosmic RX is, we like to say, a moon powered media company, uh, part media company, part wellness brand, I suppose, that we founded, me and my business partner, Audrey Rudolph, to really help people apply these big concepts like astrology, spirituality, ancient wisdom to their everyday life, whether that's relationships, entrepreneurship, purpose, leadership, creativity, healing, whatever, right? Like just getting by as a human. We host courses, we have retreats, we have a very popular newsletter, podcast, a blog, a private community that's all focused on really turning self-awareness into self-actualization. And we like to say, to help democratize magic, we're just making things very accessible, fun, digestible, so you can really not just read about spirituality or go on a retreat one time, like, oh, people go to Costa Rica for one spiritual retreat. That doesn't help create sustainable change in your life. We want to help people feel embodied in their spirituality. Like, spirituality isn't something you do once a year. It's not even something you just do, once a day in a meditation pillow. It's how you show up with your life with more spirit, more openness, more love, more joy. And we want it to feel actually fun for people. So yeah, our goal is to do that and kind of give people tools of what is it, like practical magic. So it's no gatekeeping, no overly esoteric woo woo energy. Just like, here's what you need to know, maybe for today in our news on our Substack or in the podcast or in a course. Here's how to really apply this information for the modern world.
I definitely, yeah, I relate to the kind of not taking the woo woo and the really tangible approach to this. Because I do think, I mean, if it's all true, it's really tangible. There isn't a whole woo layer. I think people bring concept of woo because it just means, I guess, I'll word this better about parapsychology or
Mm-hmm.
miracles. A lot of what people say that is, or pseudoscience, not pseudoscience, but I guess not exactly parapsychology. I'm blanking on the exact word, but they just say it's science that hasn't been understood yet. We just
I
don't have
love
the
that.
data. So they make stories around it and they use esoteric vocabulary. But, I think of meteors with that. There was all these kind of spiritual stories, or I don't want to use
Mm-hmm.
spiritual because I don't want to use that negative connotation, but like esoteric kind of fantasy stories about rocks falling from the sky. And skeptics were like, that's not true.
Yeah.
And then now we know meteors, and it's a really obvious explanation.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this stuff will have that. And I do think the answer is still going to be our consciousness,
A
is
hundred
non-local,
percent.
not created by a brain, but it's once we have the mechanism understood, it's not going to be as mysterious as everyone thinks.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're headed. Even like the astrology of the moment is really going to
Mm-hmm.
be over the next 20 years a lot more to understand and explore as it relates
Mm-hmm.
to our consciousness. And I think we're actually going to understand it through a scientific lens more. Even like, I think
Mm-hmm.
AI is so, I have so many thoughts on AI, but like, I think one of the
Oh.
funny side effects of it is it's going to actually
Mm-hmm.
prove more about like our consciousness and our extrasensory perception and certain things that more scientific minded people maybe have poo-pooed in the past, but it's all there, it's all available to us. And if you really start studying like history, like you said, like meteors, and people have these allegorical stories and connections to myths and archetypes from all different cultures who never got in touch with each other, right? Like, even like, there's Indian astrology, Vedic Hindu astrology, and then astrology of, from the Yoruba, tradition in Africa, with the Native American looking at indigenous to the Americas view on astrology. They'll have the same astrological archetypes. Like Venus is always the goddess planet of feminine energy, and maybe she manifests differently in her name and her myths, but it's very similar. And you're like, well, that's that collective consciousness. Like, why, in a time where people couldn't connect with each other, they were telling the same stories and feeling the same things happening. And what's cool about science, and I think why I love astrology, is because it really does combine the scientific and the spiritual, at least for me, in a way that's very grounding, where like my husband, who doesn't understand all the actual really witchy things I do. He's like, I don't get it. But astrology, he's like, he'll tell everyone, he's like, astrology is a science, because so much of it is just a study of patterns and data. So we can say, okay, right now, as of 2024, we entered the astrology of the French Revolution. And I'm watching the headlines, and every headline is like, let them eat cake. Are we in the French Revolution? And I'm like, here we go. Like, we're just, and you could look to that for a micro moment in your life in a month, or you could look out like this 240-year cycle of time that we're in. And we can look back on it. But the fun thing about like the actual planets, like I mentioned, Venus, in every culture, Venus has always represented beauty and the feminine and the goddess planet and love. And then scientists discovered in the 1800s that Venus is the only planet in the sky that when she orbits, I call her she, when she orbits, she makes this beautiful, completely symmetrical, almost like a flower in the sky. And it's like, but no one knew that. Yeah. And every planet.
And no one knew that. That was before
no one knew that.
The measurements existed. Wow.
But people are just plugging into something where you're like, okay, like there's something there, right? Like Saturn in astrology represents like boundaries, and Saturn is like the furthest planet out. And it's quite literally like our bodyguard, our bouncer to the outer realms. So anyways, there's just a lot of fun things like that I giggle a lot as an astrologer of like, that's so funny. Like humans, we're so tuned in, and we're also simultaneously not.
Right. And I have to ask, since you brought this up, and we cannot go here if you don't want to, but regarding, you brought up French Revolution, are we going to be like, it's not a good time now politically at all in the United States?
I know.
Do you have any insight? Are things, I mean, after our recent New York election, I'm feeling more positive. I'm open about what I think about what people might call politics. I call them at this point human rights. People on my podcast, 100%. I'm very open my thoughts on it, and I'm thrilled with the New York election with Mamdani. I'm horrified by the person in power in the White House, and you know, so I mean, how? I don't even know. How are we screwed? What's going on? There's no better way to say. Are we okay?
To quote your podcast, the WTF of it all. I every day I'm just like, oh, we're in that WTF of it all, astrology. Yeah. So let's break this down. And also, I am a person who likes to make my beliefs and what I stand for very known up front and center. And
you do too. Yeah, okay.
This is not the time to shy. This is not the time for politics of politeness. It's like,
it's honey, not McCain in the bushes. You can't agree to disagree. Right.
I grew up exactly during that time. It was like, agree to disagree. I'm like, okay, now we're on the cusp of fascism in our nation. We are like,
I'm glad you still said cusp, because I feel like we might be past the cusp now.
We might be. The fact that we can talk like this is what gives me hope. I'm like, and I think that, what I will say is it is a time to loudly and proudly call out things. If you do not agree with them, this is not the time to be. The thing that's going to tip us into fascism 110% is people being, thinking it doesn't affect them, or people worried about being, offensive. And first chapter of my book is like, it's time to do away with the good girl, because the good girl energy is like, especially as women, like, honey, like children are being kidnapped. Children are being freaking pepper sprayed in their face. Like trans children don't feel safe to walk the streets. We're blaming immigrants for problems billionaires cause. And we're going to be polite. Like, I'm sorry, but like, yeah, I'm sorry. I am like, mother effing F that, like, to
By the way, you can swear on the podcast if you want. I call it what the fuck just happened.
Yeah. Okay. So fuck that shit. Like, not, and this nation, I think, is going to be rescued by women who have had a fuck enough. We're like, men, you had 250 years, you more than that, but let's just call it, in this country, and you failed. And respectability politics and good girl energy, and not that, no, like my ancestors might not have felt safe to speak up to the man because they were like impoverished, you know, whatever, fisher people, farmers. But I'm like, honey, like, I am a privileged ass white woman, and I am going to use my voice to say, fuck this. Like, I truly think that that's first and foremost. And that is not just what I'm saying from my heart. It is truly the astrology of the moment that's going to tip the scales. So we're living in
the astrology is saying this.
This is not just me. This is the planets. my toxic trait. This is not me saying fuck all you white old men ruining the country, billionaire oligarchs.
It's me saying it. Just so you know, I don't have any astrology. This is me. Fuck Trump. Fuck all that. Purely me. Just so everyone knows.
Purely me, fuck fascism, right? Fuck fascism. Yes, fuck Trump. Fuck ICE. Fuck billionaires. And the planets co-sign on this for me. So, I'm going to just back up, and I'm going to let people know two things that I want people to really hear me on this. One, if you felt like this year, 2025, was a lot, and you feel like it was just nonstop and you couldn't catch your breath, you're not imagining it. You're not, and it's not always going to be this pace. But 2025 and 2026, when I first started studying astrology at the more collective level, was in 2015, 2016. And my teachers told me that we were headed for essentially the end of our society as we know it. And it was going to start in 2020. And then it was going to accelerate in 2025, 2026. And
Wait, they said that in first of all, smart year to start studying it, 2015, 16. That makes complete sense. Why? And they predicted this. They said about 2020 and 2025. Yeah.
And this was across like every astrologer, there is a Vanity Fair article. I believe the astrologer's name is Michael Pollan, and it came out in 2008. And he called to the word, down to everything that's happening right now. Go look it up. I think it's one of the best examples of how astrology can be used to help inform the masses right now of what's happening. And this is the thing. Astrology is not, it's not something set in stone. It's not a prophecy and it has to play out. Like, we have no free will. To me, it's weather. It's understanding, okay, the storm is coming. How can we, work with it? Let's collect some rainwater. Let's batten down the hatches. Let's choose what we're going to do in this time. And even more than weather, it's an energetic opportunity, because when you understand the astrology, there have been, studies and research that show the power of collective intention, whether that's a day of meditation, a day of prayer, it shifts something. And so if we all know that there's certain astrological huge cycles we're entering, we can look back in history and see what happened during that time. And now we can use that for the first time in human history. For the first time, we have a deep awareness on a collective level about astrology. It's not just for mystics. It's not just for kings and queens. It's not just for, a few witchy weirdos in their corner, little like, East Village, little like fortune telling spots. We have podcasts, we have TikToks, we have Substack. I'm like, we can understand that there's a lesson right now. And so in 2024, in 2025, we entered a shift that is unprecedented in human history. there's these things called outer planets, and that's like what we call the Uranus, the Jupiter, the Saturn, the Neptune, Pluto. And these affect less of like you and me on the day to day. They affect more of these like micro cycles in history. They're like little eras, and they kind of dictate the collective energy. And in 2025, every single one of those planets change signs. And usually that happens like in a staggered energy. Like one planet changes signs in 10 years, and then one change, like, and they all kind of usually stagger. They all change signs in 2025. So it was like,
oh my God.
That's why we've all been like, oh, like one of those like gravitrons or something. We're like, we're actually like moving to a completely different way of being, relating. Like none of the old rules are applying, or they're not going to apply where we're going. And in that, there's a few really big lessons. So 2025, 2026, we have to buckle up and we have to ground down, and we're going to experience continued like the Mamdani win in New York. The name is Mamdani, Mamdani.
Yes.
Like that
Yes.
feeling that we had, that like,
Yes.
holy shit, this is what politics should be. This is what a leader should be.
Yes.
This is someone who's speaking to the people. That happened on a very significant time last week. Full moon in Taurus. Uranus retrograding back in Taurus for the last time until 2100. So in a lot of our lifetimes. And it was it's like a seed of like, we're going to experience more of that over the next 20 years.
Oh my God. 20 years? Oh no.
No,
that's a long time.
It's a 20-year cycle. And here's what I'll say, if I'm being completely
what's going to happen. Also, I do want to clarify for my listeners, if anyone doesn't know, I'm Jewish and I voted for Mamdani and I love him. And there's a bunch of Jews that love him. Like so many Jews love him. And I feel Jewish people who tend to have like progressive values, I feel they were brainwashed by millionaires with a lot of propaganda, sadly, about Mamdani. So I think that was just important to say. Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that so much. And I love how in his speech he did call out like, anti-Semitism, like this, like it is on the rise, and that's really scary. But it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. Like for my Jewish friends.
It's not him though. I think he's being scapegoated on this terrifying anti-Semitism. That's horrifying, but it's not him.
And we can't. This isn't the early 2000s where we don't know better. Like, listen, I grew up in a really weird church, and at that time they had us really drinking the Islamophobia Kool-Aid. Like it was, right after 9/11 in the city, and it was like, right. And we're like, okay, but you're reading the news, you're watching certain things. Now I think that we're in a moment where we can have just more consciousness. We know more things, and we know that generally it's usually not one person, like a group, a race, or religion. It's billionaire. It's people who are seeking to profit off of us being divided, like time and time again, every problem, right? Whether like, it's just, it goes back to that. And I think that, I'll never put any human, definitely not a politician, on a pedestal. They're never going to come do everything, like save us, but they do represent something. And Mamdani's win represented what happens when someone, first of all, turns down.
Hey, everyone. I'm really excited to let you know about the science and spirituality salons I'm now hosting. During these intimate events, a scientifically verified psychic medium will give all of you readings, and I will give a talk on the science and evidence that changed my mind about an afterlife. This will also be an amazing opportunity to get to meet some of you in person or virtually, and to share more about all the science and data that transformed my worldview and got me through my worst days. These can be hosted in your home, in a nearby cafe with a private room, or they can even be virtual. I've hosted a few already, and they were really special, fascinating, emotional, evidential. So if you're interested in getting a small group together over dinner, brunch, drinks, coffee, to learn more about the science and to get evidential medium readings, send me an email at hello@wtfjusthappened.net And put science and spirituality in the title.
Corporate money, millionaire, billionaire money, they cannot be owned. And what happens when they do like choose to be out there? And I think his campaign felt like what the leadership of tomorrow needs to be: curious, playful, in the streets, talking to many different people, like, and not being this like polished like career politician vibe. Like every time I saw him on a video, I'm like, this guy is just like having fun. Like he's doing Tai Chi.
Yes.
He's like at a protest rally. He's hanging out with a bodega cat. I'm like, this guy is like, he wants to know more about the city and the people he represents.
He's for the people. He's for the working average person, I feel, and against fascism. And but I think I feel the same. But,
and I will say I'm going to give a little bit of hope. I'm saying it's a little bit of hope to leave on because I know. Because I'm like, so all this is intense.
Scared me, so that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah. So 20 years is going to be like, this is the cycle that we're in of the astrology, the French Revolution. So I'm not saying, but it's not going to be like overnight, but we are going to experience some big wins over the next 8 years. Is a very pivotal time for us to think about concepts like community, to think about concepts like we, the people, have way more power, way more. We are the ones, like our money funds these people, corporations, billionaires. They only have money if we spend money with them. These politicians, we vote them in office. We like that is our White House. That is our Constitution. And so we have to remember, like, constantly, it's so easy to think about what power do I have? What power do I have? You have literally all the power. And so the banding together, the community support, even seeing things like this past month with like the SNAP benefits not being sent out, that was a travesty. That was disgusting. But I think it was really cool to watch people be like, oh no, like immediately, like it makes me want to cry, like step into action for their community. We're going to need a lot of that. And we're going to need a lot of things like shopping small. We're going to need a lot of things like doing things to think and see the world differently, and choosing each other and community over convenience, choosing, new ways of being and reimagining our society versus just being in a doom scrolling. So I tell everyone, I'm like, yeah, stay involved, stay engaged, but you have to know that point where it gets a little unhealthy and you feel like all hope is lost, because that's actually how they want you to feel. And you got to go out and just talk to your local coffee shop person, go do something nice, go smile at a stranger and be like, oh, right, like humanity, like this is who I'm here for, right? Like my people. And you can quote me on this podcast. I hope someone plays this in 10 years from now. Like the people, the astrology of this moment, the people are going to win. It is a we the people time.
We are. Okay. Trump and his crowd are not going to win. They're not going to outlaw abortion, gay marriage, human rights.
No, we are not, but we have to do it. Like we can't just sit back and be like, who's going to do this? And, I don't know if anybody, I would love to invite you as my guest. On November 23rd, I'm doing an event in Brooklyn called Rituals for the Revolution. And I'm going to be doing this kind of every month or so. And we're going to be doing grassroots activism work. We're going to be supporting Hands Off New York, which is a nonprofit that's fighting back against ICE in our city. And we're going to talk about ways to protect our neighbors, stand up to things. We're going to talk about how to have like an corporate billionaire holiday season. And then we're also going to be doing some somatic rituals so you can feel safe in your body, so you can feel energized by this. We're going to talk about some witchy ass magic to bring these mofos down. So if you want to like get involved on all those levels, like you should come, Liz, invite anyone you want. Like this is something I'm very passionate about, because we need, I think, to be approaching this from a holistic strategy right now.
Well, I'm there, and I'll ask you to send me a little thing about it, and I can share it on our Instagram. But that's encouraging. So they're not going to win, but it's not going to be overnight. He's not going to take another. You don't think he's going to be a third term or JD Vance as the next? I mean, are we going to get a normal president next time?
I think there is a woman that is going to be the downfall of Trump. And I'm not even saying it's a good woman. It might be like Erica Kirk or something. I don't know, but like I keep
Marjorie
seeing
Taylor Greene seems to be suddenly.
I keep seeing like a woman being his downfall. Trump is not going to be around for a third term, even if he wanted to be.
Good.
And we have to. The Pluto in Aquarius, one of the shadow energies, is being aware of people who are seeking control. The thing we really have to keep our eye out is the tech billionaires. These are people who are getting way too much unchecked power. So like, and it's hard for me. I'm not saying
our first trillionaire now. I mean,
our first trillionaire. Like people in the same month, people can't afford to feed their families. We have a trillionaire. Like,
yeah,
make that make sense, right? So this is why, like, I always have been saying shop small. My parents taught me about shopping small. I took Starbucks to court. I've always been a big believer in supporting the little guy. And I thought it was like cute and wholesome. Like, because I love supporting now I'm like, oh my God, no, this is warfare. Like I literally have to shop small because I will be damned if I give my money to a company that supports this president or is supporting, Palantir or surveillance or Elon Musk. So this is like, I've always shopped small, but this holiday season, I'm like, no, or like even everything I'm doing, because it is truly like how we take our power back. So much I could go on about, but there is hope. There is a beautiful arc of justice coming, but this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so we need to take really good care of ourselves and each other. And we have to practice doing the uncomfortable thing that we open this talk with, of like, the being polite isn't going to get us anywhere good.
I so agree with that. And I so agree. Yes. Okay. It's not the worst case scenario. It's not the best case. Like tomorrow, suddenly it all goes away. But it's better than the worst. But yeah, we all got to show up. I think most of my listeners agree. And, yeah, I could talk about this all day, but I want to make sure we get into Starbucks. But I want to ask you some astrology questions again. So I think just out of respect for time, I'm going to have to sort of abruptly end this one, even though I don't feel we're done with this conversation. But unless you have any closing like words of hope, it sounds like we got it. But so can you give an example of your techniques and astrology practices that really blew you away, both in your own life and a story of a client, if you're able to share that? Of course, disguised if you need to.
Absolutely. So I think like how I write about astrology in the book might surprise people. People might pick up my book after hearing this and be like, oh, it's going to be like, you have a sun sign in Libra, a Venus sign in Sag, therefore you are this. That is very cool, I guess. It's just not what I chose to do. That to me is astrology that defines you. And I was interested in writing a book about astrology that aligns you, meaning our chart is this like roadmap. It's this like, if we can really dig into this energy and tune into this frequency, you can begin living a life that is filled with more authenticity, more embodiment, more freedom, more flow. And that's where like life starts to feel really like, fun. The world is burning down. I've had a really crazy year. I had a death in the family last year. I birthed 2 babies in a year, but
Congratulations on the babies. Sorry about the death.
I know, but like I held it all with like, I'm like the happiest person I know because I just have the tools to tap into, align with myself and my cycles. So in this book, I would say the first thing for everyone, go to your sun sign. In the back of the book, I have a little thing that's like to understand your planets in your chart, and you could like plug in the key. So if you want to tap into more love and better relationships, you can go in the back of the book and like find your Venus sign and look at the Venus sign key. But for me, just literally learning, like my sun sign is Virgo. And in the book, I talk about it's practice makes magic is the key. And I talk about what that means, case studies, my own case study. And I talk about practices. Every key, every zodiac sign has a mindset practice, an embodiment practice, and a spiritual practice to do. So that way you're not just reading about your chart, but you're understanding how to live it. If your sun sign is what you need to feel in your light, then you got to do it. You got to live in your light. Like that's going to feel good. It's going to feel better. You're going to like, it's like turning the volume on your radiance all the way up. It's like bringing all parts of you back in. But it doesn't really help just for me to be like, I'm a Virgo. What does that even mean? So going to that chapter, everything I talk about in that chapter about learning about practices and rituals really help Virgos. But also practice makes magic of a Virgo shadow is that we won't start anything because we want it to be perfect. And that will keep us in an analysis paralysis. It'll keep us in a loop. And in my book, I talk about you got to just show up before you're ready. We got to show up, have it be messy, and then you work on the craft. And that embodying that unlocked everything. I used to be that person 15 years ago. I couldn't sleep at night because I had so many ideas like bursting out of me. But I just couldn't get started on any of them. And it created a crippling anxiety in me and a depression in me. It was like, I have so much I want to do, but I can't get any of it done. And I'd be comparing my day 0 to someone else's day 4,000. Why doesn't my website? I can't even get this started because how am I going to do a podcast if I don't have a perfect podcasting area? And yes. And meanwhile, like my soul and spirit were like, you have so much to share. And yeah, it's for other people, but it's also for you to express yourself. But I was so caught in this perfectionism loop. So that chapter are the actual tools that I use to just show up and make my first YouTube video, create the first iteration of my business. Those were not perfect. My first YouTube video, it's probably up there. I left it up so I would never forget. It was word salad. I am blah. Like, well, I don't even know what she was saying, but I did it. And then I could do it again and be like, okay, this is what I learned. And now, however many years later, I'm like, fine, I'll get on, I'll yap to a camera all day now. Like, so that for me was really big. And everyone has Virgo in their chart somewhere. So that's what I love about the book too, is even if you don't have your chart memorized, even if the astrology of it is all woo woo, we carry all 12 keys. There might just be a certain emphasis on certain keys in your lifetime based on your chart that are going to be like bigger ones to unlock. And so similarly with one of my clients, it was really hard for me to pick case studies for the book because I had like 15 great stories for every one. And I was like, which one do I do?
They were all inspiring though. I enjoyed every single one. So I definitely recommend reading it. But yeah, if you can share one of them or one that didn't make it in, whichever you prefer.
Yeah. So I'll share one of them from the book because I think about it often. And I included these because again, I wanted this to be astrology that came off of the paper into the real life practical realm of like what happens when you unlock this. And one of my clients, Naomi, and she gave me permission to use her name and her likeness and her story in my book. She's so cool. She's such a badass. She's from the Pacific Northwest. She's a cool, like just tattooed, artistic, motorcycle mama, like very, very, very cool lady. And she, to pay her bills, got a job at a big, let's just say a big shipping place that we all are well aware of and use every day. And she just got the job to pay the bills, right? And
probably the one that people buy my books on, and I don't have a choice but to engage with is my guess.
Okay, also, so not that, because I sell books in there too. This was the shipping, the place that works with them to get just you the stuff.
Purely shipping.
Purely shipping, but we all probably know who that is too. So, yes. and same. So she's working with them, and honestly, like she's like, great, like this is good to pay my bills, helping support my family. But then they start doing a little fuckery after COVID times, and they start kind of telling people they were going to have bonuses or overtime and then not. And she was just like, wow, I'm like really pissed off at this. Like, this is really pissing me off. I just got this job to pay my bills and go home and work on my art, but I can't help it. And we talk about in the first key, she has a lot of Aries in her chart, and Aries is really like the bad bitch of the zodiac. And Aries in all of our lives teaches us that our sacred rage is really important. And like, it's meant to be turned into something. Like, you're not supposed to like live in your anger. You're not supposed to turn it off either, but you can like, you're supposed to have it be a fuel for something. So she got so pissed off. And so one of her coworkers was like, you should sign up to be one of our representatives, our union, like steward person. And they were like, she's like, me, I literally have like a nose ring. I'm not that like college educated leader. I have like blue hair. Like I'm just here again to collect a paycheck. But people are like, no, like the way you talk and the way you do things is like breath of fresh air. And she's neurospicy like me. She's like ADHD, all this stuff. She's like, I don't even know how to talk in a group. And but she stepped up and she's herself. She didn't try to be someone that she wasn't. And she ended up going to bat for her people big time and getting like a national record breaking deal, like for her crew, for their representation, for their workers' rights.
Amazing.
And then she went on to represent nationally. She got to go to a big conference and be awarded this great award for like doing some really badass things. And she did it all as herself. She didn't try to change. And that key in the book that we worked with her, it's shifting from why me to why not me. Because I think so many of us have something in life we want to do or say or experience. And our first result, our first reaction in our mind can be, why me? Like, who am I to do that? And so it's like, what about in the Aries energy? What happens when you shift to like, why not me? Someone's got to do it. And I feel that fire in me, and her whole life has changed. And she's someone I deeply admire. And the ripple effect of what that's done for her and her family has been tremendous. And that's why I love, again, astrology. That's not just to define you, but align you, because it helped put her on a whole new trajectory and a whole new timeline.
Oh, that's so empowering. I completely love that. And I love about the anger, because I think that's one thing that's always bothered me a little in the spiritual world. It's like, never feel anger, love everyone, forgive everyone. I'm just like, no. I mean, that's just not my personality. I'm much more of a like, fuck around
No,
and find
fuck
out
that.
person. But
No,
for the
fuck that.
underdog, for like injustice, some people are like, well, you should forgive him. I'm just like, no. I mean, yes, like your best friend or your parents or spouse, but like you forgive the people you love, and for people who do amends, you work things out. That's the difference between being like a grudgy person versus like, hell no, I'm not forgiving bad people. I'm not taking a love and understanding approach. That's like one of my main gripes with the spiritual world. So I love like everything you said.
Yeah, I'm like, honey, now that's how, what? Like, again, it's like, yes, forgive your partner. Okay, your parents. Yes, also these people have done a lot. They've invested a lot in your emotional bank account. So yes, of course, grace, forgiveness.
You forgive
but like,
in your love, in your relationships, of course. Yes.
but like, I'm not here to like, again, back to the politeness, like love and light our way through systemic oppression. Like love and light our way through. Yeah, no, like, no.
I'm like, yeah, fuck around. I might like, so many spiritual people now are like love and light in their signature. I'm like, maybe I'll just put like fuck around and find out in my signature. I'm kind of considering it.
Love that. No, I love that, because that is also the deepest, like, to me, that's the deepest spiritual practice, is tapping into that. And we talked about feminine energy before, and I'm like, feminine energy is nature too. Look at nature. Like nature destroys. Nature is fierce. Nature is ferocious, whether we're talking about a mama bear or a storm. Like nothing in nature is just like cool, like fluffy vibes all the time. And right now, when I said that it's going to be up to the feminine, I believe in women, and anyone who wants to embody that feminine energy over the next like 10, 15 years, it does. And it needs us, because we're multidimensional, we're comforting, we usually care about people outside of ourselves, we have radical empathy. But more than that, we need to tap into the rage of like sacred rage too. Because like it's the shit isn't going to happen that needs to get happen with us being like, it's okay, namaste, like I bow to you, I forgive you. It's like, nah.
No.
Yeah, you fafoed.
Yeah, fafoed. I know. Actually, I'm considering law school, and I was even like, I mean, I have to get other parts of my life set first. I want to be making a certain amount of money. Like, there's other things I'm looking into, and it's one of the things I've been considering a lot. And I'm like, even looked up, could I call my law firm Fafo Law?
I love that.
Like, I'm like, I wonder if I could. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
I'm here for it. I'm
here for injustice, and something injustice. I'm thinking of adding that, whether it's law school or something else. But it's one of the top things I've been considering. So, where can our listeners find you? Remind them the name of your book and your website and all of that.
The book is in the Cosmic Zone, available wherever you get books. You can go to my website, cosmicrx.com, to a hub of all this information I talked about today. And of course, Instagram is always a fun place just to connect and follow along. So at the Cosmic RX is my brand. And then if you just want to get weird with me in my personal life, it's at I am Madi Murphy, MADIMURPHY.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Tune back in to the next episode where I continue my conversation with Madi Murphy, where you can hear us talk about how she took on Starbucks. It's really inspiring. And I will also talk a bit about my involvement in the Harvey Weinstein case, including when he sent private detectives to my apartment. And this bonus episode will be coming out this Thursday. I know a lot of you have heard me talk about the Forever Family Foundation. They were absolutely instrumental in helping my grief and in changing my view of the probability of an afterlife. They use science-based testing to certify psychic mediums, have a scientific advisory board, and they host grief retreats. They will be hosting a special grief retreat this October in California, only for parents who have lost a child. The founders, Fran and Bob Ginsberg, who have become like parents to me, although Fran sadly passed in 2020, started the foundation after the passing of their daughter, Bailey, so helping grieving parents is dear to their hearts. This retreat will have psychic mediums and speakers. While they host many grief retreats during the year, having been through it themselves, they understand the unique type of grief and the safe environment needed for those who have lost a child. For more information and to sign up, go to foreverfamilyfoundation.org. I'll also have the link to this retreat in the show notes. To get more information on what the fuck just happened, go to WTFJustHappened.net. There you can order my book, WTF Just Happened, A Sciencey Skeptic Explores Grief, Healing, and Evidence of an Afterlife. You can learn all about how I came to conclude that there most likely is an afterlife, but you can also learn about the early stages of my grief and the amazing, fascinating people I met along the way. You can read about how much I harassed the mediums and scientists trying to get evidence to see if the mediums were cheating and see if what everyone was saying actually was true. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to stay updated on any new developments and any interesting new what the fuck updates. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It makes such a difference, especially for a new podcast like this one. And if any of you have had a crazy what the fuck yourself, have any questions, feedback, or just want to say hey, reach out on either Instagram at WTF_just_happened_, or email me at hello@WTFJustHappened.net. I love hearing from all of you. It makes my day hearing your stories and questions and feedback and all of it. And remember, you don't have to draw any final conclusions as you wonder, what the fuck just happened?